Hello everyone and welcome to Social Media Marketing 12 Tips. Before you go on, however, let me remind you of a video presentation entitled Social Media Marketing Connect, where I discuss the Connect model for successful social media marketing. Please make sure to watch that presentation or to review that article. And now let's move on to the 12 tips. Tip number 1, be patient. The success in social media really doesn't happen overnight. If anything, you just got to be patient, which reminds me of one of my favorite principles ever in business. It's called minimum effective frequency. And the principle suggests that there is a certain critical number of connections with your customer or exposures to your information before the customer decides to go ahead and buy a product from you. So I had a client long time ago who advertised for 21 days on radio and TV and nothing happened. No one single phone call. Yet after 21 days, business starts to develop. So there is, for every single business, there is certain minimum effective frequency or minimum number of connections and conversations that have to happen before the client decides to buy. Which reminds me also of a book written by Gary Vaynerchuk entitled Jab, 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 Right Hook. And the idea is pretty much the same. Gary Vaynerchuk stresses that you have to, almost like a court your customer, build a relationship with your customer, develop trust, educate your customer, give him or her value, share lots of things with your customers, and only after certain time, sometimes even 6 months according to Gary, you can expect that the right hook that you offer will actually be accepted and that your client, your prospective client, will actually become your client. So once again, be patient, allow lots of time. And that also reminds me of a Twitter rule 411 mentioned earlier, suggesting that you need to tweet at least 4 times original content, then you can retweet once, and only then you can offer one self-promoting tweet with a call to action. And the second tip is to be consistent. In other words, you need to know what is your brand about? What is your brand essence? Brand essence is like a mission statement for a brand. What is your brand's personality? And then just stay within the boundaries of your brand. Stay completely aligned with your brand in terms of message and content, in terms of frequency. In other words, be consistent when you post and how often you post, as much as possible. And you can automate that so that your post will always arrive maybe in the morning or whatever. And then keep your brand's tone of voice in mind. In other words, the conversation and the language and the tone of voice should always be the same, consistent, and aligned with your brand. Principle number 3, be personal. Remember, there's nothing bad about being personal. On the opposite, people like to know who they are dealing with, and they are more likely to do business if they know you. You are the brand. And that said, one of the most important principles for the social media marketing is to be real, to be you, to be authentic. Principle or tip number 4 is to plan your activities. You need to assign some key days and times when you will be working most on your social media marketing. Say that might be a Monday or whatever, and that's where you will spend 3 to 4 hours on social media marketing, and every other day you might just spend 10-15 minutes. I don't know what your amount of time is. You will learn that and you will know it over time, but it is very important to plan your activities and to assign responsibilities, to have a clear idea who does what in your organization, to assign procedures, to assign person for Twitter and or Facebook, etc., and to know exactly who is going to provide content for the person who is going to post the content on Twitter or Facebook or on a company's blog. Again, allow time for social media activity on a daily basis as well. 5, post regularly and frequently. The big question is how often? How often do we post? Well, again, there's no magic rule. Some people say, well, you need to post every single day, at least 3 to 4 times. Well, my kind of rule is whenever you have something to say, whenever you have something of value to share. So there's really no magic rule. Yes, it's better to share information more often than not, but there must be a reason for your communication as well. Also remember, it's okay to post the same content twice. For example, in the morning you might want to post some information, really important information in the morning on Twitter, then a couple of hours later or in the evening again on Twitter. And of course, similar message or the same message should be shared on Facebook and other media. Don't spam. You will notice that lots of people in the social media business send too many messages. They literally spam and overwhelm you with their messages, which is something that eventually results in you stopping to follow them. So don't spam. It's not a good practice. Tip number 6. Use videos, use images, use visuals as much as you can. Upload your videos, show your pictures, educate people through images. And one of the good ways to do that would be to use so-called infographics, like for example those that can be created through a website called Easily. It's a very simple way to create your own infographics and to share your insights in a visual way. Free service, very simple to use. It's called Easily. Tip number 7. Engage in communication. There is nothing really more important than engaging in communication. You need to like people, you need to follow them, comment, ask questions, respond, thank, give things away, give kudos, congratulate. This is absolutely essential. Engaging in communication. Tip number 8. Share at the right times. Well, according to Forbes magazine, this is one of the 3 biggest secrets in the social media marketing. I don't know if I personally agree with that. I think it's, in my personal opinion, it's better to post than not if you have something to say. Yet, we have to recognize that the timing is important. So, according to SlideShare, one of the infographics that I found is that the best time to post on Facebook is probably between 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. Similar time is the best for Twitter, from 1 to actually 3. Interestingly, on LinkedIn, preferably you will post information in the morning before 9 a.m., before the business hours, or right after the business hours, which makes some sense. And similarly, there are some rules for Google Plus and Pinterest, for example. Yet, once again, I have to say that only you know your customers, and you will probably know best when they can actually read and pay attention to your tweets and posts. Tip number 9. Do well by doing good. In other words, if there is one type of content that can become viral in social media, that is actually the good cause content. In other words, good cause campaigns always get retweeted, shared, etc. And supporting local community, supporting good cause projects, etc. Those things that help community kind of come back to you by increased exposure in social media. So tip number 9, think about it, do well by doing good. Tip number 10, think SEO. When you create your social media presence, like for example this one on Twitter, you do want to think about your keywords. You do want to stress your keywords in your promotion. This particular example of a Whistler Golf Club, note how often they mention Whistler and golf, etc. Yes, this is part of their name, but I'm using this just as an example. They're very visible on the internet. I found them very quickly just by typing Whistler Golf, even on Google. So basically, you will help yourself if you use in your bio as well, in your description, everywhere, if you use your keywords. And the similar rules applies to YouTube videos. In the video description, you need to put your keywords. In the name of the channel, you need to put your keywords and everything. In other words, when I say think SEO, I'm just trying to say, well, be friendly to anyone who is trying to search and find information about your business. So that's tip number 10. Tip number 11, use hashtags, very popular hashtags to promote your business. So what is a hashtag? It's actually the # or hash at the beginning of your important phrase or word that actually turns any phrase into a searchable link. In other words, if you send a message through your Facebook or Twitter and sort of like almost like highlight the most important keywords just by adding hashtag in front of the phrase, don't put any spaces here, and also use capital letters at the beginning of each word, like M here and D here. That is going to make you much more searchable on the internet, and it's going to actually help you promote your tweets. Basically, you can use hashtag on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Vine, Google+, etc. And tip number 12, customize. You need to align your content, message length, and visuals with the channel. Of course, even though you have, in a way, you have the same message, you will want to change the wording if you post on Twitter versus if you post on Facebook. On Facebook, you're going to use more text, you're going to use more visuals, and even the message can be slightly adjusted. So here's a funny infographics about differences between different social media. As a rule, you need to think about those channels as different channels just because you have different target audience. Their expectations are different. Their language is different. The content, the interest, everything is different. So with this in mind, I'd like to thank you, and I'd like to encourage you to keep trying things, keep testing, keep learning about social media, and see you soon. Thank you for watching.